Hey there, welcome to episode 127 of the Let's Innovate for Vegas audio program. I am your host, Managing Director of the Innovate for Vegas Foundation, Dan Hugo. We're recording this at 7:20 in the morning on Tuesday, July 22nd, 2025. Today's title and topic, Open Source Wager. We'll get into it, of course. If you're not familiar with the Innovate for Vegas Foundation or the Let's Innovate for Vegas audio program, we are a Nevada nonprofit corporation, recently entered our fourth year of operation. We are a 501c3 public charity. Our purpose is to enable and encourage ideation, innovation, and implementation to make our communities better. Nowhere in there did I say code. Code is certainly a part of it, and it will figure into today's episode a little bit more than I would like it to. Ideally, innovation takes many forms, and that is our goal, is to enable and encourage that. Not everything is an app. Not everything is code. You can have many skills and still make your communities better. So there you go. And this audio program is about that. And so each week we touch on various aspects of being a Nevada nonprofit, of being a civic volunteer organization, of pursuing open source community elevating projects, and so on and so on. So hopefully, if you have any questions, of course, you can reach out to us. We have a fine website that I'll mention in the links. So let's get on with it then. Hopefully wherever you found this audio program, you're able to locate the show notes in the episode description. The show notes contains a summary, and there will be a links section, and then we'll get into it. The summary of today's episode: the common scenario is external contribution to open source projects or lack thereof, but what about any open initiative, whether yours or someone else's? Is it worthwhile to add time, effort, and expertise? So yeah, are people still contributing to your project? Are you still in the mood to contribute to someone else's? The pull request economy is a particular, I'll use the word popular, approach to making this a possibility. Does it work? Do you want to do it? Do you want to participate in that? The links for today's episode, Innovate for Vegas, our main website for the activity, for teams, for initiatives, and so on, our good old website that's been around for the whole time, innovateforvegas.org. innovateforvegas.org. We now have another website, the Innovate for Vegas Foundation website. That's innovateforvegas.foundation, innovateforvegas.foundation. And so that we split them so that the innovateforvegas.org website will focus on individual contributors, teams, initiatives, progress, what we're trying to accomplish and how. And here it is, the source code for things. If we're talking about software, but it could be the keeping track of any initiatives and component projects. So I would love to see more non-software elements, and we'll be pursuing that more and more. Where the .foundation version is about the corporation. We are a Nevada nonprofit corporation, so we're like a real company. We're a 501c3 public charity. We file the 990 tax return each year. We accept donations. We have bylaws, all that boring stuff that most people, I think you're either interested in one or the other, some in both, but now we have a separate web presence. They both lead to the same place. That's us. projectact.info. I like to have a link to this one so people are just aware of it. The website is very boring at the moment, but Project ACT, the Autonomous Cohort Tessellation Initiative, is about discovery and enabling and encouraging connection, communication, and collaboration between cohorts. I'll leave it there. I've done whole episodes on this, and we will do more. agileforvolunteers.org. That's agileforvolunteers.org. It's our take on Agile, the original Agile from, what is it? It's from February 2001, I think it is. Not the Agile Industrial Complex and everything it has become since, but the original thinking. where they were software engineers writing this agile methodology or conceiving of it for software engineers. So it was of and by programmers. Agile for Volunteers is aimed at volunteers, not employees, and at anyone contributing their time, effort, and expertise to a civic volunteer community elevating project, although it could find other applications along similar lines. So we take some of the important parts like whole team and aiming for positive outcomes, not filling in the blanks of a specification. We don't have stand-ups and so on. So Agile for Volunteers, still a work in progress, everything is. But it has its own website because we hope that others will join in and give it a try, see if it works for them, especially if you're a volunteer organization. But still a work in progress, so maybe a little early for that. And an article that prompted me to mention this, although I've mentioned some of these things before, Why Nobody Does It Anymore is my simplified title. It's This is Why Nobody Submits PRs, pull requests, to open source anymore, by a Medium user, ThreadSafe Diaries. Now, unfortunately, this is a members-only story, so we'll see if I will read the subheads, but we'll basically be looking at the subject of the article, not the article itself. So I'm only referring to this one article here. There are plenty of similar articles. There are plenty of articles taking the opposite view. These are written recently and decades ago and in between. This particular article is focused on the pain points around submitting a pull request, which is a collection of changes you might propose the maintainers of a repository so that they might accept and merge, and then why the value proposition is approaching nil to do all these things. It's becoming more and more difficult. It's like peak oil. Like we're having to do more and more to get less and less. That's the assertion. The points made are difficult to refute, though we could argue for the sake of optimism. Like these are like the worst case scenarios all listed for you. So let us quickly step through the section heads. We can consider these and some general considerations for any open project, whether software or something else, and how precarious the ecosystem around all of this might be. Note this is a members-only Medium article, as I mentioned. You may or may not be able to read the entire article, so I'm just going to very quickly, and again, it's ThreadSafe Diaries. It was published 5 days ago from today, which makes it the July 17th or so. It's hard to say whether 5 days is, sometimes it's rounded or whatnot, but it's something around the 17th of July of this year, 2025. So the sections, maintainer burnout is at an all-time high. This is probably accurate. LLM, that's large language model spam, flooded the contribution pipeline. This is more and more contributions of AI-generated code, AI-generated pull requests. I'm not a fan of AI-generated code, so I can see where that would be a problem. But from the maintainer side, if you're getting more and more, if pull requests can now be generated at 10 times coder speed, but they're half as good or a quarter as good or less, then it's very easy to get overwhelmed. It becomes spam. Spam on the pull requests. Number 3, contribution is now a maze of red tape. I can see this. Back in the old days, there used to be the auto config loop, I think it was, where you would make config, make install, make clean. There were these standard commands. The configure application would determine which libraries were needed and which were installed, and it would give you a full rundown of what you were missing and so on. So that was back in the old days of more Unixy and definitely a Linuxy software. Now, he lists a few, he or she, I'm not really sure. I will say one of the items is read a 3,000 word contributing document, and I think we have one of those. Set up a bunch of tools, run a linter, sign in a CLA. That's actually, we kind of have that too. And follow strict commit message formats. This is sort of also true past 15 GitHub actions. So basically, this is complaining about the things that someone running a larger project or entity such as ours puts in place to protect the entity and contributions to it and their ongoing initiatives and projects. And so that becomes onerous. And yeah, it's hard to argue against. But it's also the nature of the world. Nobody's reviewing, so why bother? This one is a really interesting one, and it's something we'll probably talk the most about. If you never hear back from a pull request that you've submitted, then why did I spend my time doing that if I'm never going to, they didn't take my change. They didn't even answer and say, no, this is a bad idea, nothing. And he does point out again, maintainers are burned out. There's no process for triage. So some of these things are that vary. Your mileage will vary with some of these. The GitHub notification fire hose is, it's a problem. You get a lot of notifications. It's like if you're an Instagram person and your post blows up and you get a notification for every like or something. Oh my God, I got 10,000 likes. My phone didn't stop. So mitigating and grouping and digesting and so on goes a long way. And I think GitHub, as far as I'm aware, is trying to address that. GitHub is not the only platform, but certainly the GitHub flow with pull requests is probably the presumption here. Number 6, corporate open source not equals community anymore is not equal to. This is a tricky one because we are a corporation and we're pursuing open source initiatives, but we are not paid. So we're 100% volunteer. So hopefully we do have a potential to have a real community of contributors and participants, but this will vary wildly. So it's hard to, I think it's hard to make a really generalized statement like this. Number 7, contributors have better options. Well, that's generally true. That's you can write a technical deep dive on Medium, like this article perhaps. Create libraries with Dino Deploy or Cloudflare, posting demos on X or LinkedIn. Neither of those is appealing, actually, to if you ask me. Monetizing their own NPM modules, this is generally true. And in fact, I would suggest that anyone who is in the market, I suppose you could say, for contributing to other people's projects, would do well to have their own, so that they kind of see the world through both lenses. Maybe you have incoming pull requests, and you submit a pull request, and then, hey, nobody read my pull request, but I also have 25 pull requests that I haven't read yet. So you kind of see both sides. So just a thought. So the conclusion, it's not dead, but it's changing, and he goes through some conclusions. The reality check, maintainer burnout is a persistent, well-documented issue affecting the majority of maintainers. That's totally understandable, but I think that has to do with organization on the project side. Reality is reality, but I think there has to be sort of a pause and a realization. Somebody has to say, hey, you need to take some time. You need to back away, push back from the keyboard and take a moment and recharge and keep the people contributing from outside informed about that. Reality is reality. I think if you're transparent about that, then who's going to complain? I have made pull requests now and then to projects that I use, that I like, etc. And I don't hear back, and I just say, okay, well, that's fine. I move on to other things. AI-generated spam PRs are becoming a growing problem. That I totally agree. I think we're going to see some real interesting times with AI writing code and doing other tasks for us in this line of work. But that could apply to anything: documentation, language translation. Who knows? Complex contribution processes, like I said, they're kind of necessary at this point, but we can try to automate them. Dev containers is one thing. And hey, you can use AI to summarize a long contributing document so that it answers your questions or pretends to. And corporate-backed projects often struggle with community engagement. Honestly, I think corporate-backed, if the corporation is for profit, I used to work at Intel, and Intel was putting a lot of money into open source development and contributions back to upstream, right? Linux kernel and so on. It's hard to, as a volunteer outside contributor, to contribute to an Intel project when you know that they're paying their employees, normal salaries. So you're going to contribute to their work. That's a very glib way of viewing things, but it does make it a little bit difficult to balance those books, right? In our case, we're all volunteers. You're not contributing to a project where someone who's being paid is telling you what to do or things like this. I have a problem with that in general. So we're all on the same page when it comes to compensation. It comes from within. So that's the article. It was interesting. I think it's very cynical, and it does take the worst case. So the article is written from a certain point of view, and it is important to remember or to realize that there are at least two sides to transactions like those described, with someone maintaining an open source software project, for example, and someone submitting a pull request or a suggested edit or feature with some code or documentation or whatever is in the request. So it could be a pull request, or it could be the equivalent of. So generally speaking, hey, I have something to add to your project because reason, right? There may be a few more individuals involved, but it's essentially a two-way street. That is, maybe it's a three-way street. I don't know. Two ways. Note that the first point made does address maintainer burnout, which can take many forms and is very real. But I think that's an easy one to sort of summarize. I think there's a little bit more to it than that. This is something I've covered in previous episodes of this very audio program, that oftentimes a person volunteering is a newcomer to a larger group. So that is, I don't know anyone on a particular project team. I'm making a pull request. It's coming to them they don't know me. I don't know them. So and this could also be the case if you're helping out at a weekend trash cleanup initiative. We're going to clean up some trash in a community on the streets, on the sides of the roads, and so on. So you come along, and there's a group of people that have been doing this every weekend for years, and this is your first time. And this is a cynical view, but a volunteer in this circumstance may view their contributions as a favor done for the group. In other words, hey, I'm doing this for you guys. This is not actually incorrect, sort of, but it is also not so simple. I cannot speak for or to any organizational structure, but for our foundation, civic volunteers are actually in a flat organizational structure with our whole team approach to advancing progress and so on. So it's important to realize, like I said, that there has to be something from within driving. It's not cash, and you're not working for me, for example. We are working together. So it's not incorrect, but it's also really not correct to view participation as a favor or a service to me. It's definitely not to one person, but it's, that's why we are trying to elevate communities, whether they're local or far away. So everything we're doing is about engaging with our fellow humans, so to speak. I know that sounds a little, it sounds like a bit much, but that's the take home, is that we are trying to accomplish good things. And so it should always be a matter of, how can I spend my time and effort and expertise in a way that benefits the undertaking and helps out the other people involved, and ultimately leads to a better outcome. That's part of the whole Agile for Volunteers methodology as well. At the same time, it is human nature to organize around a dominant figure, though not necessarily the same one all the time. I have proposed in at least one previous episode that in a flat organization such as ours, one or two people might want to tackle managing pull requests or triaging incoming issues or watching over any CI/CD, that's continuous integration, continuous deployment, continuous delivery, if you like. There's some variations on that too. Production system status or whatever else. And I'm not focusing on software here. I'm sorry, I'm only focusing on software here, but we can also have equally important roles associated with any undertaking that is not software. We really do need someone to take ownership of the parts, the important parts, not the missing. The important parts that sort of make a project or an initiative with its component projects move along in a stable or predictable way. And so that means kind of being around, which in the volunteer space means committing a little bit more time, effort, and expertise than most others. And so this is where that maintainer burnout comes in, is if people don't understand that. If they think, well, I'm making a pull request, why aren't you listening to me? And there are people who are spending a lot of time, and there are people that are spending even more time than that. And they probably want to, but don't have the time. So it's not quite as simple as, hey, you owe me time to review my pull request because I spent time. So, and like I said, when I submitted a pull request in one case and I didn't hear back, I didn't hear back for months, but then I did hear back later, and I honestly didn't even remember what it was about. I had stopped using the thing because it turned out whatever the thing was, I think, I don't remember what it was exactly. It was like a bookmark manager or something. It wasn't doing what I hoped it would do, and my pull request was about something that I thought was important, but the project itself stopped being important to me, so therefore I wasn't overly concerned with the pull request, so whatever the case. But there is a stake imbalance, as in a stake, steak, not dinner. One of the major issues implied in this Medium article and faced in general is the workload placed on volunteers. This is not quite the same for paid open source maintainers, the commercial or corporate projects. We can save that for another conversation, since we're all volunteer over here. So that's not really the same. That's not the problem is not the same in that regard. We're not paying some people and others are volunteering and so on. Automation and strict contribution policies and the other factors mentioned, and probably more, make the task list for those who are contributing that little bit extra to perform in certain roles to keep the wheels turning, if you like, longer and longer. So that is the burnout aspect. But they may end up spending more time trying to get through that list than getting through that list. That's probably the source of some of that burnout. And in order to improve that situation, maybe even more time and effort is needed. So what can lead to burnout is when I can't speak for everyone, but when you spend, and this is just generally true, I've found it to be generally true through my career. I always say, if I'm spending more time trying to get my job done than getting my job done, there's a problem. And if I can't fix it, then maybe this job is not for me. So that may be true. It's a little bit cynical or maybe a little bit glib. But what does not help at all is to have other individuals who don't have the same stake invested. They're not spending, tens of hours a week or some other, recurring contribution of time, effort, and expertise, to become an additional signal on that burnout, frustration path. So if everything is taking up a lot of time and then suddenly you have people frustrated with you, hey, how come you're not working? Hey, you haven't responded to I took my time. How come you're not? And I don't mean to diminish the external contributions, but there's that two-way street. So I think at some point, a little bit of transparency. Hey, I have run out of time and I need to take a break and I need to come back. So yeah, I think if maintainer burnout is really a problem, then that should be announced. It should be clear to people. And then the people that are frustrated by this should also take a human step back and say, oh, okay, let's everybody take a deep breath. Let's relax. Give some people some time, a break. Volunteer time is gold. If people have run out of gold, you got to give them a moment to go get some more. As time marches on, the two-way street can become very apparent in one direction, maybe not in the other. If someone submits a pull request, as in the premise of the article, and it goes unanswered, unreviewed, or of course unmerged, it just sits forever. This is an affront and cause for frustration and worse. I am not arguing with that. That is an entirely human response to be frustrated. Hey, I did a thing and nobody cares, right? I totally get it. Given the perspective of the author of the article, I think anyone who's anyone who's making pull requests has been there in to some degree, however many times. On the other side is someone who may be struggling to keep up, that maintainer burnout. But maybe they're not even burned out. Maybe they're just literally behind. Maybe they're falling behind and they're having trouble keeping up. Are they burnt out? Maybe not, but maybe they're just, maybe they're getting to that. Maybe they're approaching that. There are always degrees and everybody's different. Maybe they are too frustrated. Maybe they want to fix a few things, but they are trying to get through the pile of pull requests and they are failing. The tech debt can really catch up and overwhelm. Like, if I could just get done with these, I can. And you know what? Honestly, this becomes a question of personal time management. So maybe your tools and process are not keeping up. Rather than letting them drag down everything, it might be time to pause and say, hey, where can we streamline some of this stuff? And in the article, there's some mentions of some sources of potential trouble, right? And hey, maybe with some transparency, there's an opportunity to have other people chime in. If they're making a pull request, they may have an active interest in the project. They may say, oh, you know what? I have found that if you use this process, or if you use this tool, or if you're able to filter out this, or you do this, or you handle that, or you know. So I think if there's a walled garden approach and the pull request is treated as a sort of throw it over the fence a contribution, and there isn't some sort of knowledge about the people involved and the circumstance, hey, how come I didn't get a response? Oh, because the process is not keeping up with the workload. It's not quite burnout yet, but it might be frustration, and maybe we need to spend time on fixing that. Maybe I could be a part of that. So I think and hey, guess what? Everybody learns in that circumstance. So, but if they could fix a few things, maybe they could be a little bit more efficient, but they don't have that time because they're trying to get through the pile of pull requests and they're failing. So I understand that. They can spend a lot of time on many of these. You spent time, I'm not discounting that time, but probably less than they did. So that maintainer facing burnout is spending a lot more time than you spend on a pull request, I'm guessing. And again, not discounting that, but it is a matter of degrees, and you submitted a pull request that did not get a response. That imbalance is not trivial, but maybe it is overlooked, the imbalance. If we zoom out a bit, those who are contributing to any particular project, whether software, hardware, some creative work, maybe some physical manifestation like volunteer activity out in the real world. Like I said, the trash pickup days as one example. Those who are all in or have been at this for a while have a certain stake as a newcomer. Maybe submitting a first pull request, your stake is simply lower. You're the new kid on the block, as they say. Your interest may be just as great, but your investment in the actual pursuit, got to change that to in the actual pursuit of that development or execution of this undertaking is less. It's less than theirs, the others involved. It could be one maintainer or a team of a dozen or 100 people, and many of those people will treat this undertaking as their own, as something that is important to them on a personal, maybe visceral level. The stakes are different, and that is actually a good thing. That's how projects become sustained, because people care. They treat it like more than just a pull request. So our approach, I've thought about this quite a bit. The stake notion may be controversial. I hope to get more feedback on that along the way. But our Agile for Volunteers initiative has built into it the notion that some of the whole team will persist taking on those important tasks and putting in that little extra bit. a little bit extra, I guess, while others will be atomic in that they participate for one iteration. At the end, they can re-up for another iteration, or they can take a break, or they can even disappear completely. That happens anyway. This is the nature of volunteers. Life happens. Sometimes people don't want to or cannot, or who knows, they lost interest. Hey, I don't like the way this works. I don't, whatever the reason. It could be any number of things. External pull requests could still happen. In fact, part of our approach does include the ability to accept or receive external pull requests. But let us look at the team scheme again. So the whole team is everyone who wants to be in on the ongoing discussion about an initiative and its component projects. I'm not thrilled that people often have a Discord server or a Slack or something similar around a particular open source project. That seems like an interesting idea, and it can sort of form community, but I think like 90% of the time in my experience, they become chatty, they become noisy, just like the GitHub notification fire hose issue that's raised in the article. It's very easy to have yet another place where there's conversations, where there's noise, and some of it might be just fine. It may, oh, hey, I like the community, and we talk about movies, and we talk about it. That's fine. But it's another source of noise. And so if you're a maintainer, or if you're on that persistent team, which I'll get to in a moment, you might be saying, I got to deal with a ton of stuff. I can't keep track of who's talking about movies, and probably movies are the easy one, but web memes or whatever. Like, there could be all manner of discussions going on. And I've seen this happen in workplaces, on Slack, in any Discord server. The conversation, and especially if it's open to the outside, then you might get spam. You might get questionable offers to click on links and so on. A little water there, sorry. So what about the persistent team? That's the team that remains between agile iterations and fills in any of the ownership roles as needed. So these are the people that give that little bit extra. This makes persistent team members a bit more prominent in the mix. And as one might expect, their stake will grow more quickly. So the reason you are a persistent team member is that you have an active interest and you want to contribute your time, effort, and expertise on a regular basis. So you're sort of committed enough that you're not going to just disappear, hopefully. You're going to do the extra work between. You're going to do some triaging. You're going to do some reviewing. You're going to do maybe some improvements here and there. Like, it'd be easier to process all these incoming pull requests if we had a better tool. Let's make that a little side gig that we all put together some better process for our undertakings, right? So persistent team are the regular contributors, if you like. But it could be a project management-like role. It could be any number of things. Persistent team, though, they're going to be around. The atomic team is made up of those contributing for one iteration, probably 2 weeks, that's our usual, over which they have similar responsibilities as a persistent team member as far as taking a new task and endeavoring to complete it during the iteration. Once the iteration ends with any post-iteration wrap-up done, atomic team members are released. They are free to go. They could return. They may disappear. Who can say? Then there are external pull requests. Team members can issue pull requests, of course, or maybe they commit to main. Sorry. If you are on an atomic or persistent team, if you wanted to do a continuous integration effort and everybody just commits to main, that could work. Or maybe pull requests don't quite work for a hardware component project, or maybe there's some other physical manifestation that doesn't fit into this model. So it can vary. Wait, why are you using GitHub to manage these other things? Well, GitHub we use mostly to keep track of participation so that we make sure everybody who participates gets credit for their work. And the team and the member we can log, we can have issues opened and closed, and we can, so at the end of the day, you can say, hey, this person is contributing a lot. And it's not a ranking system, but it's really about making sure people get attribution for their effort, time, effort, and expertise, in fact. So like filing bugs, filing PRs from the outside has value, but may lack context, especially the context of iteration plans and overall momentum. These submissions may get less attention than one might like as a matter of practicality. They're just not the same as being a part of the team, even an atomic team. So the idea is to invite those who really do want to contribute to something to participate at least in an atomic team for one iteration. Maybe they can formulate their pull request as they would have anyway, but they're actually communicating with the collaborators and, as important perhaps, are a part of the whole team, if only briefly, and the whole team gets full attribution. So even though you're temporarily a part of the whole team, you are part of the history. So, I mean, you could be a part of the whole team. I don't see any reason why not, for the purposes of like notifications. Hey, do you want to look at this? Do you want to read this? Do you want to offer your feedback on something? So the whole team is everyone who's contributing. And then you may be only on an atomic team now and then or once. But if you think about it, that's not just throwing something over the fence. That's actually getting to know the people working on the thing that you're interested in for maybe 2 weeks, but that's more than often is the case. And it's not in a Discord server or other random chat, but it's an actual peer-to-peer relationship. And our policy is all about full credit, no matter what the actual contribution might be. Some, and I don't really get this, but some believe only coders for a software project are considered contributors, but no, not here. So this is a little bit of a human investment. So a word or two on AI. This came up a little bit in the article, and as a problem, as a potential problem. So if AI is generating code and submitting pull requests of subpar AI generated code content, that can become frustrating because that stuff can come in very quickly. Our default contributing document is long, just as the article points out. And this may be off-putting. Clarity is good, though, and having the information is better than finding out through some mysterious process. Like, it should be spelled out right up front that we really are not interested in AI-generated submissions, that you as a human should be doing the work. Does that mean you cannot use AI tools? No, it doesn't. What it means is that you should be considered the person that did the work. If you use a lever or some other simple machine, does that mean you didn't do the work? No, I used a lever and a block and tackle. I used tools to multiply my efforts, but I didn't use the tools to replace my efforts. That's very different. Clarity is good, though, and having that information is better than finding out through some serious process, so that's why we spell it out. When it's not written down, then it's a problem. If it's written down, but it's a lot of words, well, that's how things work. On the other hand, generative AI tools could be used to summarize or query or manipulate this document, the contributing document, as needed on the other one of the important facets to it, to our contributing document. Did I say, on the one hand I said that, but on the other, one of the important facets to it does concern contributions by AI. So, and yes, ironically, you can use AI to summarize our contribution document, if you like, contributing document. Surely a debate on the matter will rage for some time, not only at our organization, certainly in the world, or maybe no time at all. Maybe it'll be wrapped up in 6 months. But we really want to work with people and have people contribute to initiatives and component projects. So for us, people better. If AI could do it, we could just rely on AI. And then who learns any of the myriad job and life skills that come from collaborating with others on community elevation? We don't have to work with anyone. Everyone can sit home and write prompts all day and not collaborate at all. That's not a good idea. That's one you can take to the bank. This is one of the things that may confuse some, that we are a civic volunteer organization, not a software company, not a cohort working on some free software. Job skills, collaboration within our local and our locality and between cohorts and other localities, community elevation, all sorts of good stuff that comes from actually participating, not from automating away that participation. Use of AI tools to do the work of people beyond a certain tool level, again, the simple machine analogy, is no longer about humans collaborating. It's about shortcuts. Maybe as well Draft a PR with AI, submit it, and see what happens at that point. May as well draft, yeah. And that's what the article suggests, is that AI-generated pull requests are only becoming more problematic. And I would tend to agree. And that I would love to have a person who took the time to be a part of the project that we're working on, rather than having AI do their work for them and then disappearing. Because guess what? The people in that persistent team have to deal with that, and it might just get pulled out. So place your bets. There are people who spend a lot on open source. Production by Street. There are people who spend a lot on open source, be it time, effort, maybe even emotion, real care, a desire to see some project or projects reach great heights of utility and functionality. These people have substantial stake in the ongoing outcomes and everything along the way towards each of the outcomes. So there may be many outcomes. The pull request ecosystem can work, sort of. It gets a lot of flack. It is not popular with everyone. Linus Torvalds is famously not a fan of the GitHub flow. And it may well be that your projects and initiatives follow some other method to enable contributions. The assertion here, if someone is going to place their wager in the form of a pull request, it would do all sides great good if there was actual involvement, some tangible participation to connect this new contributor to the overall effort. A pull request can be a little bit distancing, and if one encounters this, the experiences detailed in the Medium article, it can be an experience that loses luster pretty quickly. And so, yeah, like I said, the article is pretty worst case. Like if all these things are happening in the worst case, then like, why bother? But maybe we should try to make it not worst case all the time and try to improve some of those scenarios. Please do not give up on contributing to open source projects, whether they are software projects or any kind of initiative. My suggestion and our approach is to make your contribution a part of a brief interval of actual participation, wherein you might actually connect with those who spend a lot of time, effort, and expertise on this thing you want to contribute yours to. It's not quite breaking bread, but it's more than tossing a pull request over the fence and waiting for a response from someone who may not know you at all. So yeah, our approach with the Agile for Volunteers model, which is a work in progress and which we're developing to try to make something of this conundrum, is to enable people to be involved more than simply throwing pull requests over, and with some documentation with our user story hierarchy and all this. Ideally, someone who is working in another cohort on a similar project might say, hey, we've solved this problem. I think I have some insights here. Or, hey, you guys are solving a problem that we are having. Maybe we can collaborate so that we can both end up solving similar problems at the same time, and so on. So we'd like to make it easy for people to come along and join in on something that we are working on, or maybe something that they are working on, to collaborate and then come away with a return on investment of that time, effort, and expertise without having a pull request sitting in infinity, right? So if you're actually a part of the team for an iteration, you're basically sitting in on a iteration or sprint. Sprint is kind of out of favor in the agile world, but so you take 2 weeks. You don't have to work for 2 weeks. It's not a 40-hour-a-week gig. But during that 2 weeks, you submit the changes you want to make, or you update an issue or a user story, or you add a new user story, you update a task, you create a bug, you create a feature request, whatever the different facets of this are, so that at the end of an iteration, you've actually been a part of the process. We can take that external out of the equation. It's an experiment. It might not work, but I think this distills down. I mean, you can still talk to people. Human interaction is fine. I'm not here to judge that, but I do find that it's almost like taken as a given that, of course we have to have a Slack, or we have to have a Discord or a Discourse, or we need to use whatever other tools so that people can chat. So that brings you, so if you're using GitHub for your project, for your repositories, that brings you away from the project repositories to have separate discussions. So now you have multiple paths to reach people and to create more elements in that fire hose and so on. So I would really like to see people not chat. Now, of course, they can talk about whatever they want, but during an iteration, some of the actual in-context discussion should be about the things we're trying to address during the iteration. So this maintains a little bit of focus, but the real goal of this, not to be draconian, but is to make the most of the civic volunteer time, effort, and expertise. So if you only have some time to give and we're spending it chatting about movies, that's wasted. You can still do that. We're not, there's no one saying, no one is policing your conversations. But the goal is to have a focused iteration, try to accomplish some things so that at the end, nobody feels, that was a total waste. Why did I bother? Which is the sort of the theme of that article. So we'll see how it goes, but that's sort of where we are headed. So hopefully you will be placing your wagers as we are placing ours, and we'll see what happens. Thanks for listening as always. If you didn't pick up on it, I was sick over the weekend. I have congestion. I have a cough. I've tried to pause when I had to cough, like just now. And my voice probably sounds a little bit different. I would like it to sound like this more often, but I don't know. We shall see. On that note, thank you for listening, and we'll catch you next week. Do consider contributing not just pull requests, but actual interest. Get to know the projects that you like. Get to know the initiatives that you might like to be a part of, especially if you can be a part of elevating your communities. That's what we're here for. Maybe you are too. Bye-bye.